All join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? Always the ones hiding in the back. What brings you here for the first time? Yeah. She must care about you. Well, welcome. Did it take a lot of convincing? No. No, like bribery or pizza or beer or any promises? Yeah. Well, welcome. First time here?
Yes.
Yeah, what brings you here?
I don't know, I've always been curious and interested on the philosophy.
Nice. Yeah. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
First time here. No, don't give me your I'm here for the first time beginner mind crap. I don't want to hear it.
Not the same person.
I already knew you were going with it in the back. First time here? Yeah.
I'm ready for a higher level connection.
Oh.
With myself.
Say the last part again?
With my higher self.
Oh, with your higher self. Okay, great. I thought you were hoping on the people here to give you some higher level connection.
Hey, that's it too.
Yeah, I was like, I know these people. I don't know what you're going to get from that. And I'm sitting up here. Well, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
You know, it's interesting because ultimately the Buddhist practice and the Buddhist teachings is there is no self. There's no lower self. There's no higher self. There is no self at all. That's it. So thanks for coming.
Thanks for that information.
Yeah. It'll make the search much easier. I promise that. The practice of non-self, which is really, it's a practice. And it's not something that, again, if you are brand new, maybe to Buddhism, or you're newer here and you haven't heard this concept, it doesn't mean that you don't exist. Doesn't mean they're not here. Doesn't mean that you don't experience physical, mental, emotional pain. It just means that in my attempt to understand and integrate this practice into my life, it means that you exist completely differently from how you perceive yourself to be. And what that means is we spend our entire lives having some idea of who we think we are. And once we've kind of formulated that idea of who we think we are, and as well as along the same time of us formulating this idea of who we think we are, we're also creating a sense of who we think we should be. So there's who we think we are now, there's who we think we want to be, there's who we think we shouldn't be. Which one is real? There was a great Zen teacher years ago, and he told a story I'm really bad at Buddhist stories, but I'll do my best to retell it. And he was sharing the story that he was at a wedding, and someone said to him, "Do you want to dance?" And he says, no, I'm a Zen priest. I don't dance. And the person said, "Come on, just go dance." And he says, no, I don't dance. And he stood up. And the person said, "Come on, let's go dance." And he's standing there and says, no, I don't dance. And he starts walking to the dance floor. The person says, "Come on, let's dance." He says, no, I don't dance. And now he's standing on the dance floor. And they say, "Come on, let's dance." And he says, no, I don't dance. And he started dancing while saying he doesn't dance. That's funny, huh? It's nice when Zen stories about emptiness can awaken 10-year-old kids, you know. This is our lives of creating a story of telling people who we think we are, telling people stories of who we think we were, telling people stories of who we are potentially aspiring to be. And then there's just the reality of, what are we doing? Thich Nhat Hanh has a great teaching where he says, who you are is defined by your action, not by what you say, not by the stories you tell, but your actions. So this is the practice, to drop the idea of any attachment to this sense of who we think we are and focus on, what are we doing? And then we can drop this idea of trying to become these people that are better than we think we are. Suzuki Roshi would say, you're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement. And I found that to be a beautiful teaching, to just remind us that, yes, we're still working on cultivating a greater sense of kindness and compassion for ourselves and others. But if we spend our whole lives thinking we're these terrible people who need like drastic improvement and need to be fixed because we're so broken, then you're going to spend your whole life telling yourself you're broken. And that is no way to live. So, I mean, it is a way to live, but it's not a fun way to live. So, all right, so with that clarity, we'll go ahead and start meditation practice. To those joining virtually, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. For those who are new, just a couple things before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. Right? You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. When you don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within the chaos. There are plenty of chairs up here for those of you who just piled into the back. If you want to grab a chair, there's plenty. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, resting the hands on the lap, relaxing the shoulders. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed, whatever is comfortable. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet. the body still, rested. And the speech quiet, aware of all sounds. And the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize how you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit, hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still, Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation isn't going to fix that. It helps you become aware of why your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can actually make changes in your life. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. That's it. It's learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter every moment of your life. And that's why it's just a practice. It's not a 6-week course. It's not something you graduate from in 3 months. It's just a way of life. It's understanding why we think, say, and do what we do. And becoming aware of how what we think, what we say, and what we do drastically impacts our lives and the lives of those around us. And therefore, we have the opportunity to practice this every single day. It's not based on some set of beliefs outside of your sense of self. Most of us have a pretty good understanding of what kindness and compassion and morality is. I'm sure some gray areas there, but we only have an hour total, so. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. But we'll spend so much of our lives trying to fix and change everybody else. Wishing they were this, wishing they were that, wondering why they're this, why they're that. So much time fighting everybody else and everything else. This is just working on you. And then other people don't bother you at all. Doesn't mean you like them. Doesn't mean you agree with them. Doesn't mean you support them. And it doesn't mean you don't try to make change. It just means that they don't bother you. And this is life-changing. Could you imagine going through your day where nothing or anyone bothers you? I mean, it's like 11:33, and most of you will be bothered before you even get out of this room. You know? I shouldn't say most of you, just a couple of you. The rest of you, it'll take till like 2 o'clock, I'm sure, before you're bothered. So I don't want to underestimate the wisdom of the people in this room here. So I'll just pause there and open up to questions. For me, I really just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And for those who are joining virtually, again, welcome, glad you're here. Feel free as you are. There's a chat box on your screen somewhere to say hello. And if you have any questions or comments, you can put them there and I'll do my best to respond. So we'll use the rest of our brief time for thoughts, questions.
I'll start off with a light, airy one.
Yeah.
What does the Buddhist teaching tell us about cravings and how to curb unhealthy cravings?
So what do the Buddhist teachings tell us about cravings and how to curb unhealthy cravings? So to start, and you said unhealthy, but I just want to point this out for anybody who might be brand new or not aware of Buddhist teachings, that cravings, as the Buddha taught, is one of the sources of suffering. Craving, desire, attachment. But he also said that there are healthy cravings. And for example, when we talked about this, I think maybe it was Tuesday night, but that without the craving to suffer less, none of us would be sitting here right now. Right? Without the craving to be a happier person, a kinder person, none of us would be exploring this stuff. If we were totally fine with just the absolute mess that we are, then, we'd still be surfing right now. But here we are. So to understand that there are healthy cravings. And so your question really is, what does he say about unhealthy cravings? They're not good. and then how do we curb them, as you said, right? The first thing I think always, and really for everybody as well, is to understand that if we want to kind of cut some of these cravings that are unhealthy, we have to be fully aware of them, like all of them. You could start by writing them down. Might need a lot of paper, right? So you could start by, and you know me, you've heard me enough, I'm not the therapy guy, I'm not trying to walk you through therapy steps, but when I talk about, okay, let's understand what are our healthy, unhealthy cravings, and identify just 10 of them. We can cut the list short a little bit, narrow it down to our top 10, and even top 5, even top 2, whatever it is, and just look at them and begin to understand, okay, what are they? Why are they there? What are they coming from? What's at the root of that? And what is it that I think is going to make my life so great if I get it? Because we crave things because something, physically, mentally, emotionally, chemically, whatever, is telling us that we need that, right? No matter how unhealthy it is. You don't roam around craving things that you don't want, right? So we have to understand, why do we want this so bad? What is the story, right? Anyone ever craved, a better place to live, a better relationship, a better car, a better pair of shoes, right? A better haircut. I don't worry about that stuff anymore. Right? So we have these cravings that we want. And it's important to understand that these cravings aren't going away anytime soon. But begin to understand, what are they? And why do we think they're going to bring us so much happiness and joy? Why are we so stuck on them? And I think once we begin to understand that, then we begin to see this is where the emptiness practice, the practice of impermanence, comes into play. That's like, okay, well, I crave these new pair of shoes. But those new pair of shoes eventually are going to become what? Old. And you're going to get rid of them, and you're not going to want them anymore. And you can apply that to anything we crave. We're just going to keep craving more and more and more. Gratitude for what we have. Reality is, most of us, if not all of us in this room, we don't need anything more than what we already have right now. Right? Could you live the rest of your life without buying another shirt? Like, do you have enough?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. But will you still buy another shirt?
Yes.
Yes.
Eventually.
Right? Eventually. So we have plenty. We don't need more shoes. We don't need more shirts. We'll buy more anyways, because something will tell us you need them.
Good advertising.
Good advertising will tell us that you need them. Billions of dollars will tell you that your shoes will expire in 6 months when the seasons change and you can't wear that color anymore, or pants or shirts or whatever it is. I always find that so, and I grew up spoiled, privileged, upper class Jewish Del Cerro. And there's like a time of the year that all of a sudden you can't wear white anymore. And we've all like bought into that. Like, are we gonna get like struck down because we have a white shirt on after some holiday? A lot of us think so. Or that your belt, oh my God, I remember in college, like the black belt only with the black shoes. You can't wear a brown belt with black shoes. Mom taught you well, right? Why not? Well, they don't match. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Do they work? Yes. Do they match? Nope, can't do it. And this is just a silly little example of how stuck we are. This is where The Matrix, as well as Fight Club and Groundhog Day, are three of the best Buddhist movies ever, right? We are stuck in the Matrix, and the world has told us what we're supposed to believe and how we're supposed to think. And we think we're making choices on our own, but we're not. Your brain has been so flooded with these things. I mean, that's partially why we crave so much, is because the world has told us for our entire lives what we're supposed to crave. So, yeah, identify them and then realize I don't need it.
Got one little extra step of letting go.
And then, yeah. So, what else? Yeah.
Can you speak more to the idea of removal of self?
More of the idea of what?
The removal of self.
Removal of self, sure. So first thing, and even in like just kind of the semantics of it, is this for everybody, but especially if you've never heard this before, is we wouldn't even say we're gonna remove ourselves, remove the self, because that would give rise to this idea that there is a self to remove. Does that make sense in theory so far?
Yes.
Right? So it's not even like, okay, well, here's myself. How do I get rid of it? It's understanding what is this thing that we call ourself. So what's your name?
Jessica.
Jessica. Is that name who you are?
No.
I mean, there's like millions of Jessicas in the world. Okay? Are there jobs you've had?
Yes.
Relationships you've had?
Yes.
Places you've lived?
Yes.
Family members you have?
Yes.
Are any of those things like who you are? Are there stories you tell yourself about yourself?
Yes.
Are those real?
Sometimes.
Well, they're stories. Are there stories other people tell about you?
Yes.
Are those real?
Sometimes.
They're just stories. You ever had pizza?
Yes.
When you take a bite of pizza, do you taste it?
Yes.
Now, right after you taste it and you finish that bite of pizza, and I asked you, Jessica, tell me about the pizza you just ate. You telling me about the pizza you just ate, is that the same thing as eating the pizza? No. No. This is your entire life. So the stories that you tell yourself about yourself, they're not real. They're stories, your memories, your thoughts about them, your perceptions of them. Same thing with other people's stories about you. They're all perceptions of reality. Eating pizza is just eating pizza. Talking about it is not eating pizza. So our whole sense of self is built on this story. Yeah. We're just humans, assuming we're all human in this room, sitting right now, or standing right now, or laying down right now. We're just humans in a room. And it's only a room because we call it a room. That'll get you started. Yeah. It's not the practice of non-self is really one of the most challenging. So it's also the most important. because the Buddha taught that what's called the Eightfold Path. You have the Four Noble Truths. The first thing the Buddha said is life is filled with suffering. Dukkha. Doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means we're going to suffer a lot. Could be extreme, tremendous pain and suffering, trauma, death, loss, abuse. It could also be, getting mayonnaise on a sandwich when you don't like mayonnaise, or the temperature is too hot, or you don't like the way your shirt looks with your shoes, right? These things are not life-threatening unless you're allergic to mayonnaise, but we experience dukkha our whole lives. The second noble truth is the cause, and this is the greed, anger, ignorance. So we practice generosity, compassion, and wisdom. The third noble truth is the ending of suffering, liberation, freedom from suffering. And the fourth is the path. This is the Eightfold Path. Correct views, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. All of that's on Google for free. First 2 pages, you're good to go. But the reason I point that out is when you said, when I was talking about our sense of self and the practice of non-self being the most important teaching, I believe, is because the right view is the first step on the Eightfold Path. And our view tends to be that ourselves are permanent and most important. As long as we wake up every day and think we are the most important person on the universe, then we're going to spend our entire lives serving the person we think is the most important person in the universe. And that won't always play out so well. So, what else?
Is consciousness part of self, or it's because it continues?
Is consciousness a part of self? Meaning,
In my understanding of samsara, you pass from life to life to life. Not that I believe in that person,
sure.
but if there's no soul in Buddhism and we have a consciousness, myself, who's consumed in this moment, is that a part of the consciousness? Is it, and I guess I was also wondering why we don't remember past lives, if that's...
Well, yeah. So the question around consciousness and self. So the consciousness isn't the self because there is no self, right? According to Buddhist teachings. The self is just an illusion of a story of who we think we are. We're just a physical thing that has come together for a period of time and then ceases to exist, right? Like ice cream, okay? And yes, I just compared us to ice cream, right? Consciousness is as this collection is called alive vijnana storehouse consciousness, a collection of actions, a collection of karma. And that consciousness is what, yes, in the Buddhist teachings around rebirth, is what continues. But that consciousness is not yourself. It's not yours.
Yeah.
Right?
And yet it is.
No, it isn't.
It's just a calm.
The second part to your question of, what was the second part of your question?
Why we don't live.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, perfect example. What I was going to say, you asked why we don't remember past lives. I couldn't even remember your question. When you first asked that question, my response was going to ask you, can you tell me everything you did this morning? And maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. But the better example was I couldn't even remember your question from 5 seconds ago. So how the heck do you think I'm going to remember past lives? Right? It is said that the Buddha his mind was so clear that he could see all past lives. And to me, I don't get wrapped up, you've heard me for years talking about this, I don't get wrapped up in the rebirth, past life, present life, future life stuff. Here we are. And whether we believe in rebirth or not doesn't matter. Whether you believe in past lives or future lives doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in all of that is, what are you doing right now? Right? There's a great teaching that says if you want to understand past lives, look at your life right now. If you want to understand future lives, look at your life right now. And again, forget about lives. Just if you want to understand your past in just this life, as much of it as you can remember, look at your life right now. Your past life meaning your past in this life created this moment. For some ridiculous, crazy reason, every single thing that has happened to you in your entire life puts you all here right now. That's crazy. And if you want to understand what your future is going to be like, pay attention to what you're doing right now, because that will determine your future. Did you have some? Was that you? I saw a hand back there. Yeah.
Can you talk about right speech? Because I know that the obvious is say good things.
Sure.
From a good place, but when I read about it, there's a lot of nuances and such, and there's someone in my life that I would say gossips quite a bit, and then I try to define gossip, and according to the dictionary, it's talking about people when they're not around. It doesn't necessarily mean it's negative, and when I'm trying to think about right speech, for me, I look at this person and judgmentally, I'm like, well, they're not using right speech, because I'm like, what is right speech? Kind of thing, looking at other people as examples.
Yeah.
It sounds very easy, but when you dig into it, it's a little more complicated than it is.
Yes. So right speech is incredibly complicated in a way, and the beauty of what you just said is you talking about them not using right speech is the same thing as them not using right speech, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So to refrain from, and it's what's called the Vinaya, which is the code of conduct that the Buddha laid out, and there are between 227 and 311 precepts as taught by the Buddha at the time of the Buddha. And like I said, you can look up called the Vinaya, Google it, research it, it's all right there. And there are very specific detailed steps. Also important to understand anything around Vinaya, precepts, things like that, is that it wasn't like the Buddha sat down one day and said, you know what, I'm going to create a big community, I'm going to write a bunch of rules out for you all that you must follow. They came together as a Sangha, as a community, right? In essence, living together. And as things occurred that caused problems in the Sangha, they became precepts. And the Vinaya actually gives the reason each precept exists. So if you're interested in all of that, you can read all that. But specifically with right speech, a couple things to focus on just for this moment, based on what you just said, to refrain from gossip of any sort, to refrain from slander. So gossip in any way, good, bad, or otherwise, just to refrain from talking about people, to refrain from slander, divisive speech, right? There's a great kind of expression, I think it's up at Metaphorist or maybe Deer Park or maybe both, but it says something to the effect of when you speak, is it necessary? Is it timely? And is it true? The thing about right speech is obviously the word speech, it's referring to what we say. But the thing about right speech begins with what we think. So as a form of practice, you could recognize somebody is gossiping, and you could think they're gossiping. I want to talk about them gossiping, and then just not say it. And that would be a practice of right speech. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you define gossiping?
Talking about others. Pretty simple. Positive or negative, just don't talk about people. What are you all going to say the rest of today? One of my favorite stories, memories, when I came back from the monastery and I was telling my parents about how, you wear the same thing every day, you eat the same thing every day. First I was saying how the meals are all in silence. I said, yeah, it's 20 minutes, you sit, you eat whatever's in front of you, you just eat it, you eat it all, you don't say a word, right? And my sweet Jewish mother said, well, I guess if you're all wearing the same thing, you're all eating the same thing, you all look the same, what else is there to talk about? So, just as a practice, it's now 11:54. How long do you think you can go without talking about anyone else? Including the person who is now challenging you to see how long you can go without talking about somebody else.
So
Sure. Yeah.
If I go home and say, Jeff talked about this today. This is what I learned.
I understand. You're wanting me to give you permission to talk about other people.
No, I'm trying to find where that line is, or is.
I'm telling you the line. The line is to not talk about others. Without but, I love this person. They're the greatest person in the world. You're still talking about somebody else. Can we not speak about others? Because maybe that person, no matter how good it is, right? Like to you, it could be good. But do they want you talking about them? Right? I saw a hand. Oh yeah, go ahead.
This is so weird because I just read an article about this.
Yeah.
And it talked about how when we're little, we go and we talk about like our recess, like, oh, he can swing on that swing so much better than her, like she does. It's like where you are in the pecking kind of thing. And then you might do it at work to see what other people think about you, like it's a reflection back on you. And people don't even know it's bad. Like they don't even understand that they shouldn't do it because they've done it their whole life to compare themselves or within their family to see where I see it when I go home in my family. They talk about someone else. I'm talking about them now.
Right.
So, but it was like, what do you do? And the question was, in this article, it was a tricycle, I think was the name of it. And it was, what do you do when this happens? And they said, well, you should say nothing. If you don't have anything nice to say, was the first thought the person said. And then the other thing was, but if there's nothing nice to say, that's a statement in itself.
Sure.
Because you didn't say anything, but it's like it's just like the timing and what it is. But if it's about other people, that was kind of what they said. Because then if you say all these wonderful things about someone, the other person might feel bad because you didn't say anything.
Right. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, just to refrain from speaking about others. Another one is no idle. Thanks for sharing that. Another one is no idle chatter. And it was funny. I remember the first time I met Ton Jeff, the first time we hosted him here, and Ton Jeff, Ton Sarbiku, or Ajahn Chah, whatever you want to. Ajahn Jeff, I should say. Ajahn Chah is another. But he's the head monk up at Metaphorist Monastery. And so he's spoken here a number of times over the years. And first time we hosted him here, I remember he was sitting on the back bench, and their lives, like in the Thai forest tradition, kind of Thai Lao Cambodian Buddhist culture, the monks, they follow the Vinaya as it was written. They haven't altered it, they haven't modified it, they haven't justified it for San Diego 2023. They follow it. And the first time he was here and he sat back there and I, welcomed him and was sitting down with him. And I'm so used to hosting people and having just, you make small talk, you have conversations. It was the most amazing thing to sit with somebody who had zero interest in idle chatter about nonsense. It was like just mind blowing. I've had idle chatter about nonsense my entire life. And here's this person who's like, I'm good. You want to ramble and talk? Go right ahead, but I'm good, silent. And a big part of it, one thing does that kind of at least give some thoughts to it?
Yeah, I did Google idle chatter as well, and I couldn't figure out exactly what it meant, except talking about nothing important.
Nonsense. Yeah, nothing important, which is what right? And so, to me, the difference between gossip is talking about people. Idle chatter is not necessarily about people, but just about like the weather and the movie and the whatever, And one practice around kind of the right speech and where silence really is golden is, and I'll kind of close with this thought, is I often will challenge people like, okay, next time you go to lunch with somebody, with a friend or whoever it might be, have a meal with them silent. Not because you're angry and in a fight, but just sit with somebody across from them where you would normally be blah, blah. Just eat your food. And at first, potentially feel how just really awkward and uncomfortable that is. I don't know, maybe you'll love it and appreciate it, who knows, but see how uncomfortable it might be to sit with somebody that normally you would talk with. Just be silent. And see what it's like to just experience presence with people beyond our attempts to always talk. So, yeah, between that and not talking about anybody for the next 2 hours, you're all gonna have a fun 2 hours. Anything else before we close? Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm taking this to the extreme, but what is in relation to this? I say to Chuck, hey, we gotta go to see grandma because she's sick, or we gotta go pick up my friend because her husband's beating her. And so, am I taking gossip to an extreme?
Well, you know, it's interesting because even in the two examples you gave, they're very different. And I'll say this especially for everybody, but especially those who are brand new. I'm not sitting here suggesting that you never speak again the rest of your lives. It's just not practical, right? We have family, loved ones, friends, whatever it is, and we're going to go take care of them. I'm not suggesting that you don't turn to somebody and say, hey, we're going to go take care of mom right now. And then they're supposed to point back at you and be like, you're a terrible Buddhist, you just said mom. That's not the, so again, it is kind of the, partially the intention. And then I get it, the intention could be like, well, I'm intending to say good things about them, but maybe they don't want to be spoken about at all in reference to your description of them. Where what I heard you say, Frank, was kind of like, hey, we're going to go take care of them. Give me the two examples again. I confused them in my head.
Grandma or help a friend is being used.
Right. So we're going to go help grandma. You're not really talking about them. You're just giving reference to where you're going or what you're about to do. That's at least how I hear it. Right. The second part is when you're referencing somebody who's, being abused or in pain or things like that. Again, the practice isn't to just allow that person to continuously be abused or be in pain. Obviously, we're going to care for people. And it's often when I talk about, I give the example of, Buddhist teachings is not about being a doormat. Embracing life as it is doesn't mean you stay in physically, mentally, emotionally abusive situations. And just say, well, I'm Buddhist, so I can continue to let them abuse me. No, get out. People being abused, they need help them. So I wouldn't suggest on a practical sense for us lay people that we kind of, again, here I am gossiping about the person I just spoke about, who I didn't have any idle chatter with in Tanjet, but I just can't imagine him being at the monastery as an example and say one of the monks is sick or something and him not referencing who is sick. Does that make sense? So-and-so is sick, but I can't tell you who. Let's go help them, but I can't tell you where they are. I just can't see that going on. So, does that make sense? Yeah. All right, anything else before we close? All right, we'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. All right, a few quick announcements before you head out. Thanks all for being here. My name is Jeff. I am a Dharma bum. We opened this temple 17 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who leave, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. So every night we have different practices going on, different people leading from a different Buddhist tradition. Every Thursday, 5 o'clock, we have a food redistribution program. I still think it's one of the best things we do around here. We gather, we make sandwiches, and we feed people who sleep on the streets every night that are hungry. So often people want to talk about non-self, and they want to overcome suffering, and they want to get through all their stuff. Someone just shared the other day all the stuff they're going through, and I said, when was the last time you helped somebody? And the blank stare on their face was just glaring. So you want to get over all your crap? Go help people. That's what my master taught me. And I think that's the best teaching I ever got. So plenty of opportunities to help people here, plenty of opportunities to help this space. We always need volunteers. You'll see newsletters or social media stuff, whether it's hosting, whether it's downstairs at Buddha for You, whether it's whatever it is. This place runs on volunteers. We have about 80 people that run all of our programs, and we always need help. So there's always something going on. I appreciate you being here. Anyone battling addiction, drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be, there's classes pretty much every day for that also. So thanks for being here. Wish you well. Be safe.